What up, y'all? We wanted to hop on just real quick before this episode and say that for about the first 10, 11 minutes, we were having issues with Mike's mic in this conversation. It was muted, so he sounds a little echoey, but after that, sounds like a normal audio quality, perfectly fine. And so we hope y'all enjoy it. We appreciate y'all, as always, for tuning in. And here's today's podcast.
Welcome to the Perspective Podcast. Josue here. As you guys probably already know, I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I attended the Oral Roberts University. I preach at times, but you already know we don't talk about that quite often here on this podcast. To my right, we have Chase Brown. He was born in Texas. He attended the University of North Texas. He's an aspiring philanthropic creative. It is February 9th. We are in California, and it turns out he still loves very long walks on the beach. Why that is, we have no idea, but we're hoping to find out this time around. Chase Brown, how you doing?
I'm doing really good, man.
Yeah.
You know, since we're staying in Corona, haven't really, granted, we did go to Huntington Beach yesterday with circuit riders, but wasn't actually able to go on the beach. So gonna need to try to find some time to sneak over there and get on a beach.
You don't want to disappoint your fans. That's true.
I know, man.
Yeah.
I need to uphold the reputation.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called. But other than that, I'm doing well. How are you, bro?
I'm good. You guys have to forgive me. I'm kind of recovering my voice. I normally don't sound like this, so we'll try to get through it.
You got it, man.
We're on video. It's okay. I think we'll get through it.
Yeah.
We're on video, and that means we have a very special guest with us today. And
he flew in just for this podcast.
He flew in just for this podcast.
Literally landed 2 hours ago.
2 hours ago, in fact. So we're getting all the details coming in. So it turns out, is it Shams? Is that his name? The basketball?
Yeah. Insider, yeah.
Insider. Shams just reported. He's a 5-time Bostonite. That means he's from Boston, for those of you guys that are not too familiar.
5-time Bostonite of the month?
Of the month, yeah. That's what my...
I missed the 5th one.
That's what my resources is telling me here. He's a four-time, wow, this is impressive, husband and father of the week. That's some deep stuff right there. 3-time he was nominated as Booking Agent of the Year. Wow. That's also quite impressive. 2 times LA Fitness Gym All-Star, whatever you want to call it. You can catch him in LA. One of the other ones, 24-Hour Fitness, Blink Fitness,
Lifetime Fitness.
Lifetime, all of them, catch him there. 1 time.
He can be breaking your ankles on the court.
Yeah, he's going to be breaking your ankles on the court. We're zooming in right now. He has on his Jordans right now. But 1 time he's a child of God. He loves Jesus. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for Mr. Mack here in the building with us.
Yes, sir. How you doing, man?
Beautiful. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Welcome to Cali. I don't live here, but, welcome.
On behalf of PB, welcome.
Yeah.
Dang, how was the flight? How's today been so far?
I'm 6'3", so the flight was as you might expect.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was amazing. Somebody next to me farted the entire flight.
Wow.
What?
The whole time.
Why? Did you say anything? Did you give him grace? Okay.
That's scary, yeah.
Good point.
I'm not really sure, but it was pretty tough. But no, I'm glad to be here, excited. JetBlue, my TV worked, and the Wi-Fi worked, so what more could you want?
That's always nice.
Yeah, man.
You say you flew with JetBlue?
Yeah. JetBlue,
I've never.
JetBlue, True Blue member here.
I've never flown with them.
What's the experience like?
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
Solid. Yeah. Leather seats, usually pretty soft. TVs, free Wi-Fi. I mean, what more could you ask for?
That sounds like a good deal.
Yeah. Because we're Americans, and I knew you got scarred by American back in the day.
Some tough experiences with American. But in Boston, our 2 biggest, I think, in my terminal are American, and then it's like JetBlue and Delta are kind of tied. And
Yeah.
It just does not work.
Yeah, I understand that.
See, it's crazy because, you said that basically one of the 2 times that or both times you flew American or something like that, you were like, that's crazy. Like, in all my years flying American, I've only had 1 delayed flight.
every single time. And then some of the times it gets canceled.
Is that because you're flying down to Boston or just like in general?
Texas, been a lot of Texas trips.
Oh, a lot of Texas trips, yeah.
Things have been pretty weird.
That's
Like,
crazy.
I stuck the ice storm 2 years ago. I got stuck here for 3 or 4 days in that ice storm. Staying at a Marriott hotel where they had us flushing our toilets using the trash cans that they collected water in.
What?
No water anywhere, no coffee, no nothing. Stuck here 4 days, no power. Barely ice on the road, people crashing their cars.
It's bad. It's bad.
Used to 2 feet of snow.
Yeah.
2 feet, they're like, all right, see you soon.
Texas is like, nah, we shutting down.
They shut down everything.
Texas was shut down. And for good reason, because I saw people losing their whole minds
Mm-hmm.
that week. And it was tragic, and I haven't been back to Houston since.
Wow. It just happened again. We just had snow. Was it last week?
Yeah.
Last week, they shut everything down for like 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't go to school. Canceled everything, So, yeah, we can't drive in that snowy condition at all. There's no chance.
Nah. What about in the Congo? You think they could drive with that ice?
We would die. What? In the Congo? Snow? Man. I think the lowest that I remember it getting is probably 60, maybe 70, and that's cold.
It's snow in the Congo. We know what time it is.
Yeah, you gotta be looking for those horns. Sorry.
If it snows and we still here, we might look around like,
Facts. You gotta go repent, for the kingdom is near,
Man, well, what's been going on in life recently, man? Like, what's the Lord been walking you through? Like, what's been going on with you, the fam, life, all of that?
What's been going on in life? Hit me with the It's just life. Man, life has been amazing, to be honest. I'm a husband. Been married for 10 plus years now. I have 2 daughters. I'm a youth pastor. I own a business, invite-only co-owner, the #1 booking platform for Christian hip-hop in the country, if not the world. And I have a day job. I work at Boston University. So life has been busy. I'm coming off my slow season. December, November is like the really slow season for the industry and everything like that. So I've had my time to relax, and now I'm kind of getting back to it. And just trying to disciple my time well, do the best I can with what God gave me at all times. And it's been an amazing season for me, I think, in my prayer life. I would say because lately God has been answering prayers like He's been giving me those lately, which is wild. It's scary. It's like I'll tell my testimony about. I was trying to tell the guys about my student loans, but I ruined myself to go to college because I wasn't good at school. Just to put it flat out, I didn't take it seriously. I didn't really care. I was really smart, so I just coasted through everything. And when I got my first challenges in high school, because I went to an academic college prep school, when I got my first challenges, I didn't really receive them well, and I just kind of faltered and did really poorly in school. So when I wanted to go to college, my guidance counselor said, "Nah, you can't go to school. Look at you, bro. Like, are you serious right now? Like, college is not your answer." And so I took that defiantly and was like, "Oh, for real? I bet I'm going to whatever school's going to take me."
Prove you wrong, yeah.
So there's only like 2 or 3 schools that was like willing to take their shot on me. So I went to Johnson & Wales in Miami, got a little bit of student loan help, but everything else, I took every student loan I could possibly get, buried myself in the ground, left there with so much debt, but I finished in 3 years, proving my point, that I could do what I could do. But then coming out of college, I was kind of like screwed. And so basically, in my mind, I was never going to pay off my student loans. This was just going to be debt I was going to take to my grave till Jesus came back and paid it all. Like, I was just like, it's not going to happen. And I would pray all the time for them. I would pray against them. I would be real Pentecostal too. I would rebuke these loans. Jesus.
You got to.
Yeah, I was cursing them. I was like, I bind the enemy of debt.
Yeah.
The spirit of debt. I'm like, man, that spirit of debt, I bind you right. You know what I mean? I be doing that stuff.
There's a new prayer for you.
Yeah. I'm praying that after the podcast.
Go before it. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe there is. You might want to double check me. I might check the Bible. But so, they have all these debt relief programs and stuff like that. I was signing up for everything, and just believing that one day it was just going to go away. Basically, was my thought. And I didn't always pay on them. Sometimes I would let them falter. All this stuff, the kids don't try this at home, but I just didn't take them seriously. And then I applied for student loan forgiveness, and they said, you qualify, but you got to make like 30 more payments, which is like 3 or 4 more years. And then they said the next time they were like, you don't qualify. And then the next time they were like, all right, you only need 20 more payments. I was like, okay. And then one day I came home and I just got a letter in the mail and it just said, your loans are all forgiven. I didn't do nothing. I just came home, opened up some letters, I almost threw it away. Opened it up, and it was just like, all your loans are forgiven. And I was just like, wow. Like,
Praise the Lord.
Look at God showing off. Like, I don't even know what happened. They're just gone.
Yeah.
And there's just been times recently where I've just, like, I would get a check for business, and I tithe all my business stuff. I'm a heavy tither. I believe in tithing tremendously. Not because I think I'm going to be cursed, but because I believe it's God's, and God gives me everything I got in the first place. So I'm going to give it back to him as much as I can. And so I knew I had missed one of my big chunks that I had gotten paid for something, and it was a $400 tithe that I had told myself I was supposed to give that $400. I forgot, and I only had $400. And I was like, dang, should I even do this? Because I forgot a while ago. Like, what's the statute of limitations on tithe?
That's a question.
And I literally had this thought in my head that said, why are you worried about money? I give you all the money you get anyway. Like, you wouldn't even have that. And I was like, boom, Holy Spirit, you're right. So I tithed that payment. That was the next day I got that check in the mail. That said, all my stuff, that letter, all my stuff was forgiven. And I was just like, wow. Like, sometimes the Lord will just be like, are you kidding me? Like, provider or not? Like, you believe or not. And so he's been on that lately where I've prayed stuff and then he'll literally just, like, the same day or the next day he's been answering them.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, open heaven principles and like all that sort of stuff, but like I feel like I'm in that space right now where I'm trying to be careful what I even ask for and what I pray for in general. But it's one of those seasons where God is like, I feel like he's been like really inclined to hear my prayers, and it's been really beautiful and fulfilling.
Yeah, I'm gonna slide some prayers your way, since the skies are open. Make sure to slide some your way. Just pray on my behalf, intercede on my behalf. Yeah, I was thinking about like, because I feel like I'm in a similar space in regards to, because I know you mentioned like being in ministry, working at a school. Was it a school?
Boston University,
Boston
college.
University, and also having the invite only, just doing all those different things. So I feel like sometimes, like when you're in ministry, it feels like you have to put everything into ministry, all your time and efforts. Don't do, invite only, because that takes away from ministry. Don't do Boston University. That's taking away your time for ministry. You need to focus your mind, your time, efforts towards ministry. So how did you come to a place where you felt comfortable being able to do all of those things? Maybe you were in a space where people were like, hey, you shouldn't be doing all these things. Does that make sense? Because sometimes I feel like when you're in it, you're doing ministry, you almost feel like you got to just not do anything else besides that, or else you're chasing money, quote unquote. So yeah, I think that's kind of my question for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. First, I don't subscribe to the idea of ministry being chasing money. For me, I almost don't value money. Like, money is typically the last thing in my mind, and anybody who does business with me knows that. Like, I have artists all the time where I'll put something together for them, and I won't take a commission. I don't care. Or my business partners, when something's going on, and I'm just like, what you need? Like, yeah, take it. I don't care. Like, money is, I don't want to be too philosophical and say that money is like a construct, but it really is. Like, value is what we put value on, and for me, I value the favor of the Lord above all things. The favor and the grace of the Lord. Like I said, to be in a position of open heaven where I'm not worried about my bank account when I know I can literally ask God for whatever I need. Like, what do I care about money for? So I'm in that mindset where most of the time I'm not thinking about money, or I'm spending money and I'm not even looking at my bank account. Sometimes I went to dinner last night. We was at Applebee's. Bill was $50. I gave him my card. They said you only had 25 on this card. I was like, oh, shoot. Surprise. You know what I mean? Let me figure out what card got money on it. But like, I move through life like that, just so carefree, so careless. Like, I was almost reckless. I don't even, like I said, I hate to even talk about how I move through life, because I would hate for somebody to try to step into that. Like, if that's not what your faith is built like, but my faith is built like that. Like, my wife is scared when I go places because she knows that I'm just be wandering through life. Like, for my senior year of college, when I finished my semester early, I did study abroad because I had nothing else to do. I went to Korea. I had my flight there, and then I had a flight home from Korea to San Francisco, and that was it. And I live in Boston. And so my mother was like, how are you getting home? I was like, I don't know. Like, who cares?
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, like I'll get back. To this day, I have no idea how I got back because I didn't have any money. I was flat broke. I actually like defrauded some credit cards and like somehow got my grandfather to give me his credit card number over the phone. In some, I don't know how, you ever see the movie Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio? That was me. That's me. That is me. Like I go through life like that, bro. Like I just make it happen. And somehow I know I went to Seattle, I went to San Francisco, I went to like somewhere else in the world, and I ended up at home. I don't know how I got home. He didn't know how I got home. He said, "Did you use my card?" I said, "I figured it out." But that's that's how I move through life. Like I never planned to be anything. I woke up one morning and was like, "Am I the #1 booking agent in Christian hip hop?" Like I didn't go seeking that.
Yeah.
I never saw any of this stuff. I didn't seek to be a youth pastor. I didn't seek to be anything. Like I literally would just walk down the street and just like, Lord, where am I going? And try to look for where it is that he wants me to go, and walk through open doors and do what it is I feel like he wants me to do. Like I don't make 5-year plans. I think I said this on our Bible study one time. I don't make 5-year plans. I don't make 10-year plans. Barely make 1-year plans. I'm just like, Lord, what's your plan?
And it's crazy because one of probably my favorite quotes ever was from Francis Chan. And he said that oftentimes whenever we say that, oh, I don't think I'm supposed to do this right now because it's not in God's will, really what we're trying to do is make an excuse to not be obedient to the Holy Spirit at that time. And we use this proverbial term of the will of God or the plan of God for our life as an excuse to not be in the present moment and not pursue righteousness and obedience right now. And it's crazy because you talking about that, like you, in the sheer fact of you being present and being who you were meant to be in that moment, embracing the journey and not being who you're supposed to be 5 years from now, not being who you're supposed to be even a week from now, but being who you are in that moment allows all these other things allows God to provide those things. Yeah. And it was something that DeBaron also said that will always stick with me. He was like, I'd rather have $0 in my bank account and the provision of the Lord rather than have $1 million in my bank account and not have the provision of the Lord.
Yeah.
Like that shifted things for me crazy.
Yeah. When you just attach to your father and having kids kind of helped me with that mindset, because when their kids are around their parent or around, me, like their dad, their protector, then they're fearless. But once you leave the room and you close the door and they're in their room by themselves at night, they're terrified of everything. And so I trust and believe that God is always there in the room with me. So I'm I'm rarely afraid. And the idea of not having him in the room with me, that's terrifying to me. So I always want to be in his presence and know that I'm in his hand. Because if I am, then nothing else matters. Nothing else is intimidating, not even death. That's what it talks about, not death nor life. It's going to separate you from the love of God. Yeah, death's not even the separation. Paul was like, man, it's better that I would leave. But I'm here for y'all fools. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm here for y'all. You know what I mean? Like, I can't wait to go to heaven. Maranatha. Like we said, but there's mission and there's call, but it's to be in paradise. That's the goal.
So then how does that so I understand it from the standpoint of finances not being a concern, right? So then how do you go towards, I guess if I could even use the word balancing, or because all those things something's going to need your attention at one point or another, right? So how do you go towards balancing, I got this and this and this and this, and I'm also a father, also, I'm also a husband. How do you balance all of those different things in light of the way that you live your life in faith and all that stuff?
Yeah.
My wife. Your wife will let you know when you're not balanced.
Yeah.
That's like the whole answer.
Dang.
Like your wife will check you. She sees it. I won't. 9 out of 10 times I won't see it. I won't even know if something's off or like that. But she'll speak up and say something like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's that completion. Like I feel like even getting married, the most important thing that I've ever done is because it made me a complete person, which is what it's supposed to do. She completes me in those areas where I was incomplete. You know what I mean? And we're supposed to come together and become one flesh, because all these blind spots and all these places where I wasn't paying attention or I didn't care, she comes in and makes me care or makes me pay attention. And yeah, like I said, I would probably be a wandering nomad to this day. Like if she didn't come in and cause me to be stable in some way. And so she's really the one that will check me and be like, yep, you're not spending enough time with your kids. And I'll be like, oh, for real? Yep, you're neglecting that. I'm like, oh, shoot, I am? Like, it's, yeah, so she'll be the check and balance that God put in place in my life to help me see that stuff.
Where you find a woman like that?
I told you the same way I found everything else. I was wandering the lands, roaming to and fro, and the Lord placed her in my life like he has placed everything else in my life. I ain't seek her. He put her there. You know, I could have never found her on my own. We can do no good thing on our own. And that's the greatest thing I have. So I know I didn't have nothing to do with that. Because when I met her, I was off again in La La Land, and she was there, and you know, she waited, and she was like, I knew she liked me, and it took like 2 years before we started kicking it. But you know, the Lord had put her there in that place. The Lord brought her to my church where I was already at doing whatever, and so He brought her into my life. Yeah, every good and perfect gift comes from above, from the Father of lights.
So in light of, I mean, this is not even where we're supposed to be going, but, you know, since we're kind of discussing it, you know, wanting to get more insight, you know, towards people that do make big decisions like that, right? Was it your nature already to, when you have somebody that's able to, if I can use the word, check you in that kind of way, or help balance you, complete you in that kind of way, was that a transition for you, or was that, did you take it like, oh, I needed this?
No, it's agonizing.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I hated it.
Yeah.
Because it's a hit to your ego every time.
Yeah. It's hard for the ego. It's hard for somebody like me, again, who's just like frivolous almost and aloof in some ways, for somebody to come in and want to ground me or like, you know, challenge me in these ways or demand attention or say, you got too much going on because you're not spending enough time with me. And so that's what the marriage process does. It makes you care about things that you never would have cared about had you not been married. Right. Because you have to, the only way that you're going to care about it is if you take somebody and you give them an agreement and a covenant and say, all right, my life is no longer mine. Now my life is me and yours. Now I have no choice but to pay attention to that stuff that otherwise you couldn't have convinced me to care about. Right. And so now I've made an agreement with you. So now we have to care about it through it all. And when it doesn't go well and it goes haywire, I have to say, all right, are we going to continue to work on this? Because that's what happens most times. People get married, they might last that first year, and then they got to decide, all right, do I actually want to live for this other person? And most people don't want to actually live for the other person. And then that's when the marriage is, you know, it ends. After that little honeymoon phase goes away, and they're not on their best behavior, you're not on your best behavior, and y'all realize she don't actually like that stuff that she was watching with you, but she was watching because she liked you. She realized you don't actually take a shower every night. You was just doing that because you want to smell good for her. You don't normally wear cologne and Old Spice. Like once all that stuff starts wearing off, then you realize, then you got to make a decision. Like, all right, am I going to fight for this person? Am I going to kill my ambitions for this person? Am I willing to change my whole routine for this person and live almost in a completely different fashion from who is innately me? Because the natural me, like we think that, you know, who I am, that's the whole state of the world, right? This is who I am, and I shouldn't have to change for nobody. You know what I mean? Like, everybody else needs to adjust to who I am. And so when you get married, that's the opposite of that. Now you're literally saying, all right, this is a person that I've decided that is so amazing and significant to me that I'm willing to change everything for them and to change everything to make it work for them. And that's an idea that's like anti-American basically at this point.
So then like, why? I feel like a fair amount of people, because either I'm around a lot of very wise people, which I mean, it is the case. Like I'm around you, like I'm around you, I'm around you, like y'all wise. Like yes, I'm around a whole bunch of wise people, but I still feel like a lot of people understand that hey, in marriage there is this thing as a honeymoon phase. After a year or two, it's gonna be like okay, the real you is gonna come out if you haven't shown it already, and then like real business is gonna kind of get done. You all are gonna decide whether you're gonna stick around or not. So why don't we, like, with us knowing that, why don't we show our true selves, like, while we're dating, while we're engaged, before we get married, even in that first, like, honeymoon phase? Like, why are we, at least our society in a way, like, why are we still stuck in this way of feeling like we need to put on a mask for someone else whenever we know, okay, at the end of the day, this is going to catch up with us and it's not going to be good?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you're not out there just, like, completely faking. But you are just coming forward, and every time you're spending time with that person, you are putting your best foot forward. You're giving it your best effort, And so it's not like hopefully you're not coming in and telling them you're a millionaire and you're really not, and even though that happens obviously a lot too. But hopefully, I mean, it's really just you coming forward and just like giving them your all in a way that in reality is not sustainable. You find out later. But the idea is, you're giving your best version of yourself. And eventually it's almost like working out. Like I can go play basketball at a really high level once or twice a week. The other times, if I start doing back-to-backs and stuff like that, my ability to perform starts to deteriorate. You know what I mean? And so in marriage, you're trying to you can be on your best behavior 2 or 3 times a week. Even now, I give my wife my best me probably 2 or 3 times a week. And then there's 4 other days where I'm just in my feelings. There's a couple other days where I just woke up just not feeling right. And
that's whenever you're dating, it just is those 2 or 3 days. Like whenever you're on a date, like you ain't living with that person.
Twice a week, Twice a week, Mike, is amazing. Every day of the week, Mike, is, give or take whether or not you rock with him.
Yeah. So then how do we kind of initiate that process of dying to ourselves a little bit sooner? So, because we do know, hey, the honeymoon phase is going to end. Mm-hmm. So let me learn to die to myself in this capacity, even in a dating stage, to where hopefully that carries into like when we are married. Because I think that's the part that I kind of heard from you in terms of like some people aren't willing to die to themselves because it's about me.
Yep.
It's about me and my preferences and how I do things and everything else. But it's because as you were talking, I was like, man, maybe I should be like a marriage counselor, just teach people how to die to themselves. But not use those words and then not tell them I'm a Christian. So like, man, you're so wise. I'm like, nah, I just stole that from the Bible, right? Exactly. But how do you kind of start that process of, I need to learn how to die to myself because I know 2-3 years from now, that's what's going to be required from me.
I don't know if innately and without the challenge of marriage and the full commitment of that, that decision, I don't know if you can. I want to say, because I want to think that in my head, I was like, all right, I'm getting married. Like, this is going to be all about her. I would like to give myself some credit and say, I think I came in with that mindset and just had no idea what I was really walking into. You know what I mean? And just was like, oh, shoot, this is just much harder than I thought it was going to be. Like, my wife definitely should have left me at some points. Like, she would have been, and if she would have left me, she would have been justified. And there's definitely times where, like, I feel like I could have left her, and I felt like I would have had excuses and been justified. And again, marriage is just coming to this decision of like, all right, no matter how bad this gets, we're going to try to figure out how to fix it. And again, this is just an idea that's just like, it's sad. Sometimes when you explain it to people, sometimes it's just like unrealistic, but just the decision like, yo, we are in this. We're stuck. You're stuck with me. We decided. We said till death do us part. So like, just because all of a sudden, like, you don't look like how I thought you was going to look like after a while, or you snore a lot louder than I thought you did, and then you be farting. Like, you know what I mean? Just like stupid stuff like that. But like, it's just a decision like, all right, these things are happening. We are going to have to work on this stuff. Like jealousy, like envy, money issues, like just the stuff that me and my wife just disagree on that I never would have thought it was even something significant that we disagree on. And it eventually just becomes so irritating. They're like, or the family that you marry into, like, yo, I was willing to put up with them when we was dating. Like, that's cool because I really want to smash. But now, is there any way we can get rid of them? Like, is there any way we can not? Like, that's all stuff that's really going to hit you. And it just becomes different because you're not on this 10. You're not sitting on this high 10. Eventually, you come back to earth and you got to make these decisions. But again, that's what the beauty of marriage, because you have to say to yourself, no matter what, we're in this. So when these things go bad, we decided we're going to stick it out and we're going to work on it. And that's how we become most like Christ. Because Christ said to us, no matter how terrible you end up being, I'm going to stick with you and we're going to work this out. And so we can't sin our way out of it though. It's crazy. Like some of us get taught we can sin our way out of it. No, we don't. We can't sin our way out of this love of Jesus. My kids can't sin their way out of my love. I know this now. My kids can be as bad as they want. I might even kick my kids out the house, but I will never stop loving them. I might stop blessing them the same way. I might not give them a car because I'm like, yo, you gonna crash that joint? I might not give them $1 million because they might waste it and squander it. But I'm not gonna just say I don't love you no more. I still love you.
Because probably with the parable of the talents, like the master that gave them each the talents, to the analogy of Jesus, like still loved them, like just didn't give them the same if they didn't steward it well.
Yeah.
Like, and it,
we're not gonna escape from this love. And that would, in a lot of ways, that's the one-sided version of the relationship. And so in marriage, we're supposed to be both coming with that energy, like, yeah, no matter what, I'm fighting for you, I'm willing to die for you. Husband, be ready to die for your wife. Like, that's what that comes from. That's what Christ is just trying to show us what this is supposed to look like. And if we really nail it, that's when we look like Jesus. And that's the goal of marriage, for us to come out looking like Jesus. And I don't know very many ways that we can achieve that without marriage. I feel like marriage is like one of the only ways that I ever would have sacrificed the stuff that I've sacrificed as a person. Nothing else would have motivated. Nothing else would have made me try to be a better me like my wife does. Nothing else. I ain't promised that to nobody else. I didn't swear that to nobody else.
Yeah.
Like really try to check my ego, really try to get my lust under control, like only for my wife. Nothing else would have made me do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have cared.
Damn. That's beautiful, man. I think shifting gears a little bit, talking about being a youth leader and ministry being one of the many things you have going on in your life. Granted, I don't really know too much of this story. What did it look like as you switched from, either being a part of ministries or being involved in ministries to leading ministries? Like, how did that shift happen from going to being a part of things to leading things? And in that, how did the Lord grow you in that embracing of leadership?
Yeah, fortunately, I feel like I have had and do have that curse of leadership. And I call it a curse because it's a weight.
Yeah.
It's sometimes unbearable. It's one of the most lonely calls to be a leader. And I've had it from a young age and couldn't qualify it. To this day, I have a hard time understanding the anointing or the gifting that leadership is, in that a lot of times I'll find that I'd be in a room with peers and no one will listen to each other, and then I speak and everyone listens. It's like scary influence. That power of influence that so many famous people take for granted. The ability to come out and say something and have thousands of people do it on a large scale. Even for me, to just impact, tens or 20s or hundreds or whatever is and always has been scary. So from a young age, trying to see it and capture and understand the weight of it is the hardest part to me, because you feel responsible for things. You feel responsible for people that maybe you shouldn't even feel responsible for, but there is some responsibility there. And so I've been in church all my life. I feel like I was saved at a really young age. I feel like I really experienced the Lord at like 13 and kind of really been a Christian all my life. Doesn't mean I didn't do wild stuff, because I'm a wild boy and done a lot of wild stuff. But like, I know that the Lord was always there. And so I used to go to church on my own when I was like 12, 13 years old. I would get on the bus, leave my mother at home and go to church. And I would teach Sunday school to older kids when I was 15, 16. I was teaching Sunday school to 18-year-olds and leading Bible studies since as long as I can remember. And so that's just the path that God put me on. Again, I didn't seek to lead. I didn't seek to do any of this stuff. It's just where God always brought me to, and just walking in that. It's like, oh, this is what you want me to do. All right, we're doing this. And not really paying attention to it. And just waking up one day, in leadership, and just being like, oh, how do we get here again? And again, having those moments where like people are saying stuff and nobody's listening, and then talking. And I'll have friends who would be like, yo, everybody's like, bro, you got to say it. Because it's not like no one's going to listen unless you say it. And I hate that. It used to drive me crazy. Just like that, having that influence. Even on when I go play basketball, like there's kids that they fight all the time. Dudes be swinging on each other. And when I'm at the gym, it never happens. Nothing pops off. They tell me all the time, like, Mike, as soon as you leave, stuff starts going crazy. There was a fight last week. They'd be like, you see it? I was like, no, I was fighting when I was there. They was like, oh, it's right after you left. It's like, what? Like, what is that? That's crazy. But that's the call that's been on my life for a super long time. And yeah, I can't qualify it. I can't explain it. That's gifting, and you don't take credit for gifting. You just try to steward it.
So in terms of, as he mentioned, like being in ministry and in working in youth, what does that look like for you? Like in the, are you doing services? Are you doing Bible studies? Are you spending time playing basketball with them? And what does that kind of look like?
Yeah.
The ministry part.
On a regular day-to-day, it does involve me like just being amongst people all the time and shining the light of the Lord in places where people don't normally get to see it. So when I'm playing basketball, like I am always talking to young men, especially like young men of color, and using that influence that God gave me to be able to speak into their lives like randomly on a basketball court. Like I remember 2 weeks ago, these two dudes came on the court and they was just like, yo, we had next. And they had come from another court. So they definitely had, it was like triple next already. They came over, was like, yo, we're on. And the responsibility that I feel, the weight, like to walk up to them and be like, pull them aside, like, hey, bro, like, you know better than that. Like, that's all I do. I straight up to him, like, big, tall dude from the hood. I just walk up to him, pull him aside, like, come on, you know better than that. Like, that's not how we do it here, bro. And I know you're a better guy than that. And just speaking into their lives like that. And, like, inviting these dudes to church or just telling these dudes, like, I'm the dude that on the basketball court, I'll be telling random dudes, like, hey, I love you, bro. They be like, what the heck? Like, dudes don't experience that type of talk. Like, I'll walk up to random dudes and be like, yo, I love you, man. Like, you're a good dude. Like, I speak into their lives. And to me, that's more fulfilling and impactful work a lot of times than a lot of the stuff that I do at church. But I've always been about, like, doing life with dudes. I don't be trying to preach like that. I don't be trying to do services like that, especially anymore. Like, I've traveled the world and been to hundreds and hundreds of different ministries and been a part of some amazing conferences and all that stuff. And none of it means more to me than just, can I help somebody do life? Like, having these miraculous experiences and stuff in church and things like that are cool, but what the Bible also taught us is that they can have those experiences and go back and not be changed on the inside. And so I'm very concerned with, like, helping people really do life and really be changed, like, in a real way. And so I have people that I've just done life with. And my main thing that I do in street ministry now. Saturday mornings, we have this ministry we're part of where we go out there's a long stretch that's kind of like a Skid Row-ish type situation, if I was to compare it, in Boston. And we go out there on Saturday mornings and we pray with people and we engage people and get them to come into the church. We feed them, we give them clothes. And those are the people, like, that's always been my gift, to speak to people that other people can't speak to. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out. Like, oh, I could talk to these people that normal people can't talk to, or normal people are scared of, or normal people are freaked out by. I can build relationship, like, quickly. It's kind of weird, like, and it's dangerous too, because I found that I do that with regular people sometimes, and I found that I manipulate it. And that's been something that's been really scary for me and really, like, new for me, like, the past 5 years, to, like, really try to learn how to understand and not abuse, is my ability to, like, really make connection and really impact people and be persuasive and stuff like that, which is, like, every gift comes with, like, how you can pitfall into it. So that's how you pitfall into that leadership gift. Yeah. And that's what most really good leaders and charismatic leaders, that's why they have those infidelity issues and stuff like that, is because their power, their gift, they use it as a power. And then when people get close to them and they trust them, they'll give them anything and they'll take anything. And so I've been that person too, where I have to be careful, like, not to take everything from people because they're willing to trust me or build with me in such an intimate way, and figure out, all right, how do I use this to glorify God? How do I use this to lead people to the Lord and not lead people to me? Mm-hmm. And it's weird for me growing up because I was very quiet person, non-confrontational. I had low self-esteem, but the gift was always kind of there, that people always pay attention to me, and I never really understood why, but I wasn't confident. So as my confidence grew with the gift at the same time, it becomes dangerous. It becomes, I'm trying to say, so many people's names have gone through my head that I'm trying not to say, but, like, who these dudes are. They're predators, and I'm trying not to be a predator. Like, I have to consciously make sure that I'm not a predator because of my gifting, which is scary.
Yeah, you're trying to make sure you bear fruit with your gifts rather than just taking advantage of them. And it's something that I think it's definitely the case with gifts other than leadership. But I think in leadership, in specific too, if you combine it with a couple other skill sets, like the potential for manipulation, as you talked about, and
it's charisma
and putting on that mask in a way, like going towards what we talked about earlier, of, like, being able to put on a mask well.
Yeah, I can mask tremendously. Like, tremendously, and it's so scary. Like I could fool so many people with my personality and the face that I put on, and it's just like it's so hard to like. And a lot of times that's why I'm like, all right, be as transparent as possible. Be transparent. So like, expose yourself, expose your heart, expose your mind behind things. Say what you're really thinking. Like that's hard because I could chameleon, which is why I could fit in with any people group. Like if you drop me anywhere in this whole earth, I'll be fine. And I'll build and I can have a community in days. I probably have some girl fall in love with me. And it's like, that seems cool, but that's a scary gift. It's because I can turn stuff off and turn stuff on. And it's like, you have to be careful. You have to be so careful of your gifts and your gifting. And it took me a long time to figure it out because I didn't know I had it, one. And then two, it kind of snuck up on me. And so, yeah, that's been probably the biggest revelation that I've had in the past like 10 years, I would say, just as far as like understanding gifting and understanding ministry and what God has called me to do.
Dang. Do you have a couple stories of times where you were with the people that you were leading that was the most impactful for you in terms of not necessarily a moment where you were impacted by one of the actions that you made, but you being able to receive from the people that you're leading? Because like one of the things that hit me, I can't remember where I read it I can't remember where I read it in the Bible. I think it was along a date with David, but something that came to mind was the best leaders are the ones who can receive the best from the people they're leading and not just think that they're the only ones that have ideas that are valuable or vision or guidance or anything like that. But is there any stories that come to mind that are alongside that of you being able to receive from the people that you led?
Yeah, I think probably the best example for me is like when I've failed the most, to have dudes that like I've helped develop tell me about myself.
Wow.
Like, because it's just incredibly painful and challenging and hard and probably the most beneficial though. Like to fail and have dudes be like, yo, you failed, bro. And have to deal with that. That's been the most impactful stuff that I've ever had to deal with in ministry and in leadership. And most of us will, run from it. And I've had those seasons and I've just tried not to run from it. I've tried to just face on and be like, yep, this is my moment. I deserve this. And because, as a leader and, as a friend and everything, like you always remember, I can't really sum up all the great ones, the great moments, but I can remember every time I messed up. I remember every kid that I feel like I failed. I remember every kid who's died in ministry while I've been around. I don't know if you say under me, but while I've been around, I know every kid that's gone to jail while I've been a leader that I've had a chance to interact with. I know the kids who are in jail right now that I've had influence. I've had a whole family. This is one family. I've interacted and mentored every single one of them through all these generations, 4 generations, I think. Every single one of them, none of them in church. And they all went to jail. And it's like, bro, I got this gift. Like, what is the point of this? I've done nothing with it. Like, that's what it feels like. Like, I've had, I think, 6 kids go to jail while I've been a leader. And a few die. Mostly peers that died. And then a bunch of kids who like not go to church no more or kind of give up on the religion. Mm-hmm. And I remember all of those. I can't remember all the great stories. I don't remember everybody who went on to do whatever. I don't know. But I remember every time I felt like I really messed up. And I remember the times where I know for a fact that like, yeah, I blew that. Mm-hmm. I put a lot of ego in that. That was a lot of me in that. There was not a lot of Jesus in that moment. There was a whole lot of Mack in that moment. I remember all of those. Mm.
So how do you, because obviously, you're discussing the weight that comes with influence and just the position that you're in and all that God has given you, essentially, even from a young age, and some of the stories you just shared. So how do you deal with that, with those, man, I blew it with this one, I failed with this one went to jail when I was around. How do you deal and process all of those?
Yeah. I don't know if I deal with them great. I do mourn them. At the end of the day, I just mourn on my lamentum. I give them seasons of mourning. Some of my great failures, I've made sure that I've given them a season of mourning, and what I feel like is adequate time to mourn. And then, the beauty is, if you read the Bible, you realize, oh, this is everybody's story. So we get caught up in this idea from when we're Christians that we're not going to royally mess up anymore. And we're taught to like, all right, you're saved now. You're different now. Like, you're not going to do this stuff. Like, no, you're probably still going to fail. Like, you look at David. David had accomplished everything and then decided to fail. Like, that's so hard sometimes. Like I felt the same. Like, I felt like I went to college and just didn't wild out. Just wasn't smashing girls, wasn't doing drugs. Like, I wasn't drinking. Like, in front of all my roommates, I would tell them, I would fight them to the death. Like, no, I'm not smoking. No, I'm not drinking. No, I'm not doing none of that. Girls would try to stay, like, nah, I'm not doing it. And then I felt like when I got out of college, after I had conquered the mountaintop, I felt like going to real life, and I felt like I started fumbling the bag like crazy. It's like, yo, are you serious? Like, we went through the hard part. I went to college in Miami. I lived with 5 girls. Like, they was at clubs every night. People were working at crazy. They'd invite me to strip clubs and doing drugs. Like, it was all at my fingertips, and I passed it all up. And then I get to like real life, and I'm like, I start fumbling now. Like, it's so backwards. But then you look at David, like I said, who nailed everything. It sounded like he was God's homie. Like, he killed it, and he failed at the end of his ministry, and lamented, for that 9 months. He wept and fasted, and everybody thought he was going to kill himself because he was so down. But as soon as the baby died, he said he got up, took a shower, and started eating. And everybody was just even more confused. They're like, wait, the same dude we thought when the baby died, he was probably going to hang himself. But no, his time of lament, he felt like it was over. And so I look at all these examples. You look at Paul, Paul's wrecked. You look at Peter, like, how are Peter and Paul? This is one of my favorite things. How are Peter and Paul established in ministry, where they're at, the most, leaders of the church, and they violently disagreeing on issues. Mm-hmm. And Paul's running up to Peter like, yo, you're fake. In the middle of church service, like running up inside the service, running up to your pastor like, yo, you're fake. You don't eat that. You don't eat swine, huh? You was with them boys eating swine last week, though. Can you imagine that? And so, yeah, we gonna fail. It's part of it. It's part of the process. What we don't do as Christians, we don't have anybody prepared. That's why these young pastors commit suicide, in my opinion, because they have these failure moments and they're like, I can't face this, so I'd rather commit suicide. So that's what happens a lot of times, I believe, because there's no room for pastors to really fail and get really built up. Sometimes you see it and it's weird, and the next day they're right back where they was. But sometimes you see them and they're gone forever. Or they, like you said, they commit suicide, or they can't reface their families because they cheated on their wife and they can't go back to it. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we got to give Christians the ability to fail and be built back up and come back, because this is a whole life and process of failures and comebacks.
Do you think, because I grew up in the church, parents are pastors, working in church capacity and all that stuff, and I have conversations with, young adults about, ministers that have failed, and, it's like, how could this person fail? How could this person fail? And I'm like, because they're a person like you, kind of what you're talking about. Do you think because we're in such because we kind of see sin for what it is, and we as Christians are supposed to be people that are so far removed from sin, like you're talking about, we almost lose this capacity to sin, that when somebody sins, we question them as if we also don't do the same things in that same kind of way. Do you think that has kind of created this culture where, especially for people that are in ministry, where, they stumble, not to like condone it or anything, right? They stumble. Man, you ain't never hear from that person again. You don't even know if they're alive anymore. I'm like, all the grace they have ever showed you as they walked with you throughout your mess and your junk, out the window. I can't believe you were a sheep in wolves' clothing and everything else is thrown at them. Do you think we've kind of created this culture because we put our ministers on a high pedestal that when they stumble, it's almost like the world is over, and then these people are like, I can't face this,
Yeah. Yeah, we have delusions that these people are perfect, that they're not going to fail, that they don't go through the same stuff that we go through, and they do. And that's just it. Like they just go through the same stuff as us. And people might, it's funny, like people might have a sexual sin failure, but they might get it out the way early. You know what I mean? And then you might have yours later, and they might look at you like, oh my gosh, like, can't believe you would ever do that. And he was like, I'm pretty sure you did that too. Yeah. like I'm pretty sure that was you at some point. We all are gonna fail. And that's the beauty of the relationship with Jesus. The realization when we get to heaven, there's not gonna be nobody in the room who's gonna be able to raise their hand and say, I didn't need Jesus to get here. I got here on my own. Every single person is gonna have to raise their hand in the room. Like, all right, if you need Jesus to get into here, get in this line. If by your own, if you followed every commandment by yourself and you nailed them all, you get in this line. I don't know who's gonna be in this line, but I know everybody gonna be in this line. Every single one of us. And so what happens is, though, as human beings, our egos won't even allow us to forgive a lot of times. Like, I know cancel culture, everything like that. Like, we think it's so cool to cancel somebody. It's so cool to say, oh, you've sinned, you failed, you're out of here. Like, oh, you're done. Like, we think that's so quick. We're so quick to do that. We're so short. I know so many people who are like, let him messing with me on this way, and it's over. I'm like, bro, watch the Lord test you with that the first time when you finally do get married. Don't say that, because we all gonna have to deal with something. When you get married, don't even think about what's gonna make you break up or leave a person. No, you're gonna run into a situation where your spouse is worthy of being separate or worthy of being left. And don't think about what if that's gonna happen. No, it's gonna happen. What are you gonna just prepare yourself? What are you gonna do? When you get married, you gotta think to yourself, dang, what would I do if this person really like hurts me? Because they're gonna hurt you. And so we all gonna be hurt. We all hurt people. The craziest part is we all hurt people so much, but then when we get hurt, we swear we don't have to forgive. Everybody hurts people. Everybody hurts somebody. You gonna hurt people. And people are gonna hurt you. But that same grace that you need, that same grace that Jesus Christ has to give you for him to look at you, we have to be able to give it to people. That's when we're the most like Christ, when we're the most forgiving. That's the Jesus way. It's not if we can speak in tongues. It's not if we can do miracle signs and wonders. A lot of people were able to do that throughout the Bible, but only one guy was able to say, do your worst to me, and then I'm going to pray for you that you get forgiven. He wants us to be like that. We want to be like Jesus. That's what it means to be like Jesus. What it means to be like Jesus is let people offend you, like let it happen, and then how do you react? Most of us, I'm about to roll up and we're gonna spin the block on this person. They you know what I mean? Like they about to catch a fade. That's not how we intended for us to be ever forgiving, ever loving, ever caring. And if we were all like that, and we also put our best foot forward not to offend, then we would have the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always of that mindset. I'm like, the things that we see in the Word, all that you just shared, I'm like, if I made up in my mind to walk in love towards you in such a way of everything you just described, and you do the same to me, we would live in some type of utopia.
Exactly.
It would be amazing. Like everything that God said, if we would do that to the T, man, it would be amazing. But unfortunately, we don't.
What we think, the unfortunate part is we think that if we follow the rules, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But surprise, the rules are not there to bring us back to utopia. The rules are there to give us a framework and an idea of how not to ruin our own lives and how not to desecrate each other. But that's why he says, if you were only to just love each other, I feel my help coming for y'all Pentecostal folk. If y'all would if you would just embrace each other in love, if you would love me if I love you like I love myself, how could I possibly offend you? We don't need the law anymore after that. That's why he says, I'm not here to get rid of the law. Like everything that the law says is right. Everything the law says is good. But if we were to encapsulate this love, we would have no need because it would fulfill all that. And so Jesus came in perfect love, and that's how he fulfills the law through his life. He's saying, look, you're worried about lying, but it's bigger than lying. You're worried about you're worried about adultery. You're worried about sleeping. Everybody's like, when somebody commits adultery, oh my God, horrible, kill him, get rid of him, he's nothing. And then Jesus comes and says, well, you look at this person in lust. In my opinion, you've committed adultery too. What do we do with that? Because we all looking at everybody. Everybody. We all look at everybody. My wife had to look away from Method Man the other day during the Grammys.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, girl, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I gotta get my goatee look like Takals. I gotta get to look like Takals. But that's the reality of life. We have to be able to say, like, look, it's love. Am I loving you as well as possible? And if we're all loving each other well, we cancel all the other stuff. We get rid of all the other laws. We have access to the tree of life. We have access to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Like, we have that if we're just able to operate fully in love, and that would prevent us from committing adultery, from hurting each other, from lying, from killing. You don't want to kill somebody you love. Can't, like killing a little kitten. I love this kid. I don't want to kill it.
Yeah, and quickly going back to the part about having grace for leaders and teachers and us struggling in that. Something that the Lord really encouraged me in over the last 3 weeks as I was finishing up some writing projects I was working on was God doesn't hold teachers or creatives or writers to a perfect standard. He does hold us to a higher standard, but it's not a perfect standard. And I don't think, for me, it really encouraged me because I was like, yo, like this writing doesn't need to be perfect. Yeah. I can't purposely put lies in it or things that are going to deceive people or oppress people. But if I feel the peace of the Lord, and if I'm writing stuff that is out of his scripture that maybe I just don't have the correct perspective on right now or something like that, the Lord's going to have grace for me in that because the intention behind it. And so in that, and when it goes towards caring for others, needing to learn, okay, what does that higher standard look like and what does it look like to have grace for one another? It's amazing. But as we start to land the plane here, we wanted to give you the opportunity to where we, basically all of us in this room, we see you as like an older brother and kind of the uncle of hungry artists, man of much wisdom. You and Danny just dropping wisdom bombs every single week.
Where's Danny?
He's in Huntington Beach. He's about 40 minutes away from here.
He's
but
out there.
hopefully tonight, we'll be able to see him. But we wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of share, as a last point here, any bit of wisdom, encouragement, guidance to any young male Christian creatives that are out there.
Yeah, man. I just know we're all gonna fail. We're all gonna mess up. We're all gonna fall short of the standard that God has for us. Even when we seek to do good, a lot of times evil's gonna be there lurking at our door. Man, live in love as much as humanly possible. Don't think about yourself. Keep your eyes on the Lord. Keep your eyes on loving people, loving each other. And then when you have those moments where you falter and fail, you just lay at the feet of the Lord, and He's a forgiving God. And he's waiting for us to ask for forgiveness because we all need it. And so he's all waiting for us to have that realizing moment where we realize we're desperately in need of a Savior. And then when you have those moments of opportunity to be like Jesus, which are when other people do you wrong or you see other leaders fall, be as gracious as humanly possible to them because your leaders are going to fail. Your leaders are going to struggle. Your leaders make mistakes and they regret and hopefully they repent. And so they're looking for others to be gracious to them too, as they're trying to make it through their circumstance. And so don't forget that you too were in need of a Savior, and be gracious to others as much as possible.
That's good. Any last things from you?
Yeah, man, wow. As we mentioned from the beginning, he flew from. I don't know why this whole time I thought you lived in Georgia. That's kind of crazy.
Georgia?
Because you kept saying Boston. I'm like, why are you talking about Boston? I think you live in Georgia.
Oh, no,
but,
Boston, Massachusetts, man. I might be the only black person you ever meet from Boston. But
it'd be like that sometimes,
here I am,
right?
And I don't got that accent. Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah, because usually they have those.
Yeah.
But no, we really just appreciate you coming on and being able to share a lot of insight and just truth into, a little bit about your life and just different situations that I think this is like very practical for everybody. Because we're all around people. We all got to love people. We all got to walk in forgiveness. We're all hoping to grow in our love for the Lord and our love for other people as well. And so, you're just sharing community stuff, life stuff. So, really appreciate you just taking the time to be able to have that conversation with us,
Yeah, I was honored to get the call, Said pull up to the podcast. I was like, little old me?
Yeah.
Like, wow, I get to meet Josue like this.
6'3" Mike.
Yeah, it's amazing. And for everybody who hoops at Lifetime Fitness and LA Fitness, I'm not really like that. I'm not there. I got my homies in Boston who be at Lifetime Fitness all the time. They know good and well I don't be over there. I know my standard, I know my level. I be at Boston University Fit Rec, hooping on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Pull up on your boy.
Bro,
I'm dunking for my 41st. Let me put this on camera.
Oh, okay.
I'm 40. For my 41st birthday, I'm dunking a basketball. I'm back.
When is that? What day?
April 30th.
April 30th.
April 30th. By April 30th, I'm dunking. I'm back. That's my life goal. I told you I never set goals. This is a 2-month goal. This is about as far out as I go.
And we'll even give you 6 days of grace. Say you don't do it on April 30th, we'll give you, by the time we get to Costa Rica, to be able to dunk.
Okay.
If you don't, then there might be some repercussions there. We'll have to see.
All right, I'm gonna record myself at some point. Edit it.
It'll be good though. But nah, we really appreciate it, man. We really look up to you a lot. Your involvement, your encouragement, everything has meant a lot to those of us in the group. And yeah, just thank you for your time and being involved and for your fellowship, and especially like a little inside baseball talk, but like your encouragement from like Tuesday morning, like really, really hit home. Cause I'm someone who I feel like, if there's not like super deep wisdom or like something that I get from like that standpoint and things, that it's not valuable. Whereas sometimes fellowship is the most, if not all the time, fellowship is the most valuable thing we can get.
That's what Jesus did. He kicked it with his guys. I mean, I'm sure they had deep conversations, but he was always like, man, what we finna eat? Like Jesus pulled up after he died, went to hell, had all these adventures, fighting who knows, centaurs and stuff in the pit of hell, stealing the keys, came up inside. They was like, yo, is that Jesus? He was like, fam, where's the fish at? That's amazing. That's heavy. We underestimate the importance of sitting down and having some fish. Yeah, man. Not a Congoan. I know you know, but sometimes the Yankees might not realize the importance.
Hey, man. But yeah, we appreciate it again. So yeah, that'll be a wrap for us today. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll be putting all of Mike's information in the description for invite only, all of his stuff, all of his artist stuff. All of our information will be in the description below as well. If you want to support us, the podcast, outreach, everything we're doing. So until next time, much love. God bless.